What up? What up? What up, world? How's everybody doing tonight? I'm here with Shane, and you got me, Mike. How's everybody doing tonight? So this is Shane Hallam. How you doing tonight?
I'm good, Mike. Thanks for having me. You know, it's been fun. We've been doing a couple of these mocks, and I'm glad. I don't know. I got a random DM from someone, and was like, "This will save me from paying for real leagues." So I will gladly do some mock drafts if I can, and get hooked up with you guys. It's been a ton of fun. So I appreciate you having me on, dude.
Hell yeah, we've loved having you. You've been doing wonderful things, helping us out, and we really do appreciate all of that. Ooh, we got Cal back on. How you doing, man? And check out, keep watching the show, Ethan. You're gonna want to know why. So we have Shane here, who is managing partner of DraftCountdown.com. He's been doing fantasy football for 20 years, and he's been an analyst for over 15 years, which is amazing. He has written for Fantasy Football Draftbook Magazine, 274 Sports, About.com, and FakePigskin.com as well. Is that all correct?
Yeah, 24/7 Sports. Yeah, but that is correct.
And then he's also been a part of a few radio and podcasts on ESPN Radio, Sirius XM Fantasy Network, 4for4, and Rotoviz Radio, which is fantastic. He also co-hosts the Devy Marketplace with Kane Fossell. Is that right? Did I get the name right?
Yeah, Kane Fossell, but I didn't know.
There we go.
Look, I didn't know how to say it for a month, and I was doing a podcast with him, so you know it's all good.
So sorry about that, Kane. And he also does breaking down future draft classes for fantasy football with the Draft Countdown podcast as well with Brian Bos. I'm gonna butcher the name. Just tell me with Brian.
I think you had it. I think you had it. I think you had it.
Bosarge.
Oh,
Bosarge.
Yeah.
Okay,
it's close. It's close.
Sorry, Brian. So yeah, that's a fantastic resume. So what else have you been up to? We were talking before. You said that you had something going on.
So I just relaunched DraftCountdown.com this past Monday with Brian. So I if you have been into the NFL draft back in the day, then you've probably visited DraftCountdown.com. Scott Wright started in 1997, one of the first NFL draft websites on the internet. So that's where I kind of got my start. I worked with him. So we're bringing it back. We redesigned the site. So if you're interested in future draft classes, I have a 7-round 2022 mock draft up, rankings for 2022, 2023, and 2024. So you can get some names. If you like college football, you could definitely check that out.
Nice. Definitely. And we were talking before about Devy Marketplace, and like you just said, you kind of break down everybody from every aspect of football. And you were even telling me you guys go all the way down to high school, which is amazing.
Yeah, so I think it's something if you're a fantasy player, check out the podcast if you get a chance. So me and Kane, we focus on Devy fantasy football, which might not be something everyone's familiar with. If you play Dynasty, it's essentially Dynasty. You keep your players from year to year, but there's just one additional draft, and you draft players in college. It could be 1 or 2. It could be 10. It could be super small. But then when those players go to the NFL, you get them. So it kind of gives you an extra rooting interest, an interest in college football, and it gives you just more assets to trade. If you don't like college football, you could trade all your Devy picks away, right, and get veterans. So we kind of break that down. It's all fantasy. We talk trade. We do a lot of nonsense and non football stuff too. It's a good time. So something to check out. And it might be a type of league that you could add your repertoire out there, and we try to make sure people aren't too scared of it.
No, it's awesome. So definitely check that out. And I think we have some of the links in the description as well. So definitely check that stuff out, and check Shane out on all those, later on. But I'm really excited to have Shane here. We've been talking a little bit here and there. We have him in all these drafts that we do. and he's always been a competitive guy and always in that stuff. I think did you make top 3 of any of our mocks? I feel like you did.
I think maybe one. Yeah, it took me a couple.
At least one.
Get situated, but I feel like I made top 3 in one of them.
You might have. I just don't remember. But yeah, we've done so many. we were doing one a day for a whole month basically. So it was interesting. We had a great time with everybody, and really happy to be able to do that for everybody, to get everybody ready for their particular leagues, which more than likely everybody is either drafting this week or they did last week. We did ours last week. So I know people are around and doing that stuff. So, I hope that we were able to help get that going. I also wanted to bring up our little bit of our sponsors here with Underdog. We have partnered up with Underdog Fantasy to do best ball leagues, and we've basically partner with them, and now we have if you use the promo code Get Right, which I'll put in the comments in 2 seconds, but if you use the promo code Get Right when you sign up, and after you deposit, or after your first deposit, you'll get an additional $25 to use towards betting on the site for everybody. So make sure that you guys do that. If you also, after you sign up and you want to get some of your friends in there, which I've been trying to do, you can also get an extra $10 for every time that you try to get, somebody added to that. So definitely check it out. Definitely, sign up, use the promo code Get Right, like I just put up there. I'll show it again for everybody, and make sure that you guys check it out. And yeah, so I've done about 100 of these. I feel a little bit better doing all that. So I've done a few with Anthony, a few with Dustin, and now I'm losing a lot of money. So first we're gonna get into some injury news to get us all started. First we got just Marvin Jones with an AC sprain. It looks like he'll be fine. They keep saying he'll be ready for week 1. They said it's something like Justin Jefferson had a couple weeks ago. And I remember seeing the play when he came off. It was a little weird that they kept him in because he hurt the shoulder. They kept him in for a play, and then they took him out. And I'm sitting there like, you got to be kidding. Just get the hell out. It's preseason. Who cares? So hope he's okay. I've put a lot of stock into Marvin Jones. I really do think he's a big piece of that offense. In my Dynasty salary cap league, I overpaid. But I paid, a good amount for him. I paid about $10 for him, and no one else bet. So I was a little upset. Julio was dropped in that league too. So everyone was going for him and didn't put any money towards Marvin. So I ended up overpaying. I should have only paid $1, but it's okay. I figured the wide receiver 18 last year would be a little bit more of a commodity than Julio, but I guess I'm wrong.
I think people just get scared of the age, right? Like, oh, he's not going to be anything, and the weapons they have. But now I'm with you. I think if he's healthy, honestly, I think he's a wide receiver 1 in that offense. Absolutely. I know he's struggled with health in general, so that's the only caveat.
Yeah, I feel the same way. I mean, he has been a safety blanket for Matt, when he was in Detroit for Matthew Stafford. And I only see him being that for Trevor Lawrence. And, now with ETN out, they're going to be using Shenault as more of a, multifaceted tool that they can use anywhere. They could put him in the backfield. They can do end arounds. They can do whatever they want with him. So I feel like they're going to be having Jones be more involved and targeted a lot. I mean, I think if memory serves me correct, Shenault had 10 targets and Jones had 9. And I think Jones had a better catch rate. But to me, it just shows how much they're willing to use him even now in the preseason. They had him, to me, that it just shows that they're going to be willing to use him throughout the season. I think the AC joint is only a minor thing. So we'll see. Another player with the same type of injury is TJ Hawkinson. He should be okay. Injuries have plagued him a little bit. I was really high on him this season. I really hope he can get into the echelon of being in that, top 5 tight end that, he's paired up with Kittle and Waller and Kelsey. I want to add somebody else instead of those 3 and not Kyle Pitts, but we won't get into that conversation. But I definitely want to see him up there. He's been, he's a really great player that I feel is just ready to come out, and I just hope injury, doesn't get to him. So
I'm not quite as high on Hawkinson. Like, I think he's good. I think he's talented. And I think top 5 is definitely possible just because there is such a break. But I mean, Detroit's just so bad. And I don't think their defense is not going to be great, but I don't think it's going to be the worst in the NFL. So, and I think this is a team that's going to want to run the ball if they can. If
I agree.
Down a ton. So my fear for Hawkinson is he's going to be that number 1 target, and defenses are going to make that adjustment. And he hasn't done well when there's been a focus on him. If you look back last year, I think week 1 last season, he played really, really well. And then teams kind of adjusted, and he had kind of this cold streak. So I have a little bit of fear. I think he'll be streaky, but I think tight end's tough, man. Like, after this top 3, I think it's no man's land. You can get what you can get.
Yeah. Oh, fair. I mean, so I'll ask you this question because I'm kind of curious, because I've had this debate with countless people that I know, and I even wrote my bust article. I have Kyle Pitts in that particular spot, but I definitely made sure to make it aware that it's only based on history. There's a lot of things involved with this. But who do you think will have a better season this year? Kyle Pitts or Hawkinson?
I think I'm with you. I think Hawkinson has a better year than Pitts, just for that adjustment to the NFL. And even like the word out of Atlanta of which, like, we knew this, right? That Kyle Pitts is going to be used all over the place and receiver and what, like, we knew that. But for Kyle Pitts then to learn 3 different positions and have to play that, I think is very difficult. Like I'm sure you talked about, there's a reason why rookie tight ends generally don't do that great. I mean, Evan Ingram was an outlier. You have to go back, I think,
past 2000.
Yeah. I mean, like,
I think 2020, 2021, only one has made the top 5 at being drafted in the first round. And I want to say top 10 has only happened since 2010, I want to say. So honestly, I almost don't think he's going to be top 10. I have him ranked, I think 11 or 12 in my rankings. I know that's really, really low, but it's more, I'm thinking about the end of the year of how he's going to be. I don't see him he could maybe hit the highest. I think his ceiling is tight end 7. I don't see his ceiling being any higher. And that's just me.
I think his ceiling is probably high. I think the floor is low too. Like, I think there's such a wide range of outcomes with him. Yeah. I mean, if he is the greatest tight end in NFL history, then sure, he could be a top 5 tight end. I think that's a heavy bet to make on anyone. And I'll say too, he dealt with injury issues in college. And it's tough to predict injuries, but the tight ends, you're going to take a beating. And so I think I have a little bit of fear with that too. Is he going to hold up to the rigors of the NFL? Like you said, now with an extra game, there's a lot more, I think, that's out there. So it is a worry to me. Like, I think he could have some big games. I think he's going to have some games where he just disappears. So I think, like, I like him kind of in a best ball league where I don't have to worry about that. But I think if you have to start week to week, I think you're going to have some, kind of like Hawkinson was last year. I think you have some disappointing games, and that's going to really hurt.
Yeah, and that's where my argument with him is that everybody and their mother is drafting him tight end 4 off the board in the 4th, 5th round. And I sit there and I go, you got to be you're nuts. You're missing out on, for one, you're missing out on the value of everybody else. And 2, you're getting to a point where you're drafting him at his ceiling where you're not going to get any value for him unless you're drafting him. You're only getting value if you're drafting him in the 8th, 9th, based on, the league you're in and all that. But, unless you're drafting him later, you're getting no value for him. So basically it's a wasted pick. And yeah, you might get somebody like Evan Ingram, but the probability of that is incredibly small. And I understand Julio's gone. I understand all those targets are going. They still have a 1st-round talent in Hayden Hurst, who is on the roster still. He's not going anywhere. And I know he's not the best, but he's still there. He's still somebody that's going to get a target. You still have somebody. You have Calvin Ridley, who's going to be taking the majority share of Julio's targets, and you have Russell Gage and all these other guys that can take targets away from Pitts. To me, he doesn't have the ability to get up to that tight end 5 or higher. To me, now could it happen? Of course, but everyone says that he's the generational talent, and I'm sorry, they said that about OJ Howard. They said that about Eric Ebron, about their size and their speed, their ability to catch, all that stuff. And I just don't see it. I understand he was drafted really high, and he's the first one to be ever drafted in the top 5, I think it is. But that doesn't matter to me. It's what you can prove and what you can show on the field before anything. So for me, I'm just really low on Pitts, and history has shown that this won't happen. So I'm sticking with history over what the intangible variable that we might have.
Well, and I think that is the argument, right? I'm an NFL draft guy. I think draft capital does matter a lot. Yep. And so going 4th, means he's going to have more opportunities. Even if he screws up, he's going to have more opportunities, right? I think the Hayden Hurst point actually is good, even though, I don't know if Hayden Hurst, I think 1st-round talent. I know he was drafted in the 1st round, but,
he was drafted in the 1st round.
The 1st-round talent. But,
they traded up. They traded up to get him.
Yeah, and then they drafted a better player 2 rounds later.
I know.
It's like, oh man, I had Andrews rated above him going into that draft. I was like, okay.
Oh yeah, no.
But they're still going to have an inline tight end, and so if it's not Pitts, then Hurst will be on the field. Mike Davis is not a bad pass catching running back either.
I agree.
So I do think they're going to spread it out more than people want to want to give him credit for. I'm with you.
Yeah, so I think that's where people have the disconnect, and I understand the reasoning they want to draft him that high. If you want to draft him that high in Dynasty, go ahead. Draft him 1.1, 1.2, 1.3. Whatever you want to do in Dynasty, I'm fine with. You want to draft him in the top 4 or 5 or whatever, I'm cool with that. I get his long-term value. His short-term, this year redraft, you are ridiculous drafting him any higher than, the 8th, 7th round or, around wherever Andrews or, whoever you want to put at, 6 or 7, I think I have Tunyon or Logan Thomas, one of those guys. So you definitely want to, curb your expectations with Pitts. That's how I feel. Another guy on that particular roster is Tyrell Williams, who apparently is coming back from a really, I think he had an ACL, ACL injury last season, coming back with a minor groin injury. Okay, hold on one sec. We got Cal Peck. Can you elaborate on the other Falcons pass catchers and whether they're okay? Fair. So, Ethan, I personally feel that I don't think they're being underdrafted. I think Russell Gage is going pretty late, and I think he's probably one of the better values of this particular team. I think Calvin's a little high, but he took on such a big share when Julio Jones was out last year that you can't say that he's overdrafted, but I really think that he's somebody that people should be targeting in the 2nd, 3rd round. Pitts, like I said, I'm not going to get into him, but guys like Hurst aren't going to be drafted. Mike Davis, I'm decently high on. He's going to get a good amount of, do you agree, Shane? Like he's going to get a decent amount of carries, considering this is the Arthur Smith type offense where they're going to run it down people's throats.
Yeah, I think he's being underdrafted for sure. I'd actually say probably most of the players outside of Pitts are being underdrafted. Like I like Mike Davis. And I think what people forget about Mike Davis is he was an elite college running back. Like he was going to be a high, first round pick, like second round pick, and he got hurt and he fell and lost a little bit of that athleticism. But he still has those skills, especially in terms of vision, in terms of seeing the field. So that's why I think he performed well for Carolina last year. He's not going to be Derrick Henry. Like he's not going to turn into Mike Davis is the next first round fantasy pick, but he's going to get carries. He's going to get production. I mean, what you think Quadri Olson's going to take the job from him? I don't really see that happening unless Mike Davis is really bad. So he's definitely one of those. If I go receiver early, that I'll target to hit. I even think Calvin Ridley's a little underdrafted. Like I think you could make an argument if you took Calvin Ridley as a first receiver off the board, I wouldn't be opposed. I think you could make that argument. I know in a one tight end redraft you're not going to draft Hayden Hurst, but if you're in a deep league or a two tight end or a tight end premium, like I think Hayden Hurst could have some value. I actually like him over Russell Gage. I think he's going to be more of that, a higher target share than Gage will. So. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of my thoughts, but Mike Davis probably is the guy. Pass catcher. Maybe he doesn't fall in that category, but he's probably the guy that I'm drafting the most from that Falcons team if I don't get a Ridley share. Interesting.
Yeah, I'm actually pretty high on Russell Gage as a really deep option. Someone that you're drafting, in your later rounds that definitely can give you production. I mean, I'm trying to do the math because it's been a minute, but I think from week 10 to week 16, I want to say. Let me double check my math here. He was – where is he? Oh, he was wide receiver 33. I thought he was higher. But there was definitely a time where he was very valuable, where he could be your wide receiver 2 or 3 and get you through – that playoff push where you're trying to get into the playoffs. And I really do think he has the ability to do something as that number 2 receiver. So he's definitely someone that I've been targeting, pretty late in most redraft leagues. But that's the only guy. I haven't really gotten any shares of Calvin Ridley because he tends to go well before I'm even willing to take him. I'm more of the running back in the first 2 rounds. I've just always been a little bit more high on running back than I have been on wide receiver. Because usually for me, it's such a deep, position that you can find value anywhere. But yeah, if you have guys like Diggs and, Hopkins and Adams and Hill, you're pretty set. But if you can get those later values and still have a, strong running back core, because those guys go down real quick, you want to make sure you have somebody. So yeah, let me keep moving on. I already said Tyrell Williams dealing with the minor groin. He should be back by week 1. We'll keep an eye on it, but one guy from that particular team that I was actually thinking of talking about is Amon St. Brown. I've heard wonderful things about him. You follow, like you said, you follow college a lot more and a lot of things, with those guys. How is he rated coming in?
He's definitely an impressive physical specimen. I think, the power, the strength play off the line, he's really good against the jam. He was a player who was very good in the red zone this past year for USC. and that's kind of where he made his mark. So, he played a lot of that big slot in some places. So I'm really interested to see if Detroit will use him in that way. If he's kind of this big slot receiver, I think some more teams are trending toward that. With some teams going smaller and some teams going bigger in the slot. So, that should generally bode well for him. I think he is worth kind of a late round flyer. Now, the draft capital wasn't what I wanted. I would have liked, if he would have went in the second or third round of the NFL draft, I'd feel a lot more comfortable saying he's going to get on the field. Like he's going to be behind Terrell Williams. He's going to be behind Brashad Perriman. As much as no one wants to draft any of those guys, like they're going to be on the field. And so it honestly, like it's probably a receiver situation in redraft. I'm just not invested in. But I think if anyone, Amon-Ra St. Brown's probably the guy to take a shot on. If he does nothing the first 2 weeks, cut him, but if they're down 40 points and have to throw a lot, then it could be beneficial. Yeah.
Oh, I agree. So another guy in that particular team, and no, I didn't just look up the injury report for Detroit. I literally just couldn't find any other decent injuries that are out there. But we got DeAndre Swift dealing with his groin injury. Now, this has been a little bit crazy. He was about 2 weeks ago, they were saying he's fine. He took on full team reps. He was, out there with everybody and running and doing what he can. And now all of a sudden he might not be ready for week 1. So this is the one thing I hate about preseason, where coaches do not have to say anything about any type of injury. They can lie their faces off and we don't know anything. So it's a little disappointing to hear. I was really high on Swift. This sounds incredibly like the Montgomery of last year, the context of, oh, my groin, and then all of a sudden I'm playing week 1 and then I'm doing fantastic after week 3, So I'm kind of hoping this isn't that bad. I hope that he's able to come out and do well. But this definitely leaves an opportunity open for guys like Jamal Williams, who I'm incredibly high on. I love Jamal Williams. I'm very happy he was able to get out of Green Bay, but I also am a little disappointed that he went to a team like, that had a guy in the making. I was kind of hoping he got an opportunity to be him, because he has a lot of potential in my eyes that could be a RB1 if given the opportunity. I remember reading somewhere that I think in his career he's had 11 RB1 performances in his career. That to me shocks me, because he's only been in the league, I think, for 6 years. And, he's always played second fiddle. So I think that's, something that I really do hope that he can, get an opportunity here. I actually just did a bold prediction where I thought that Jamal Williams will take over, and lead this backfield in fantasy points. So how do you feel about that?
I think it's a good bold take. I can't go that far, but I think it's a good bold take. I could see it. Yeah. I could see it happening, especially with the injury issue. Like, I think DeAndre Swift will be out there week 1. I think it will be a 50-50 split. I think it'll be pretty evenly split. I think the big problem is Detroit sucks. Like, their offense is going to be bad. Like, no, they're just not going to score points. And so you can get a value there sometimes, for fantasy, but it's a little tougher when those touchdowns aren't, and they're scoring 1 to 2 touchdowns a game as a team. I think that's tough. So, but if this knocks Swift down the board, like, I'm willing to take him, and you can probably still get Jamal Williams later. It feels really icky though to be just like all in on the Lions running back situation. So I feel like I just never really end up with them.
Yeah, I tend to get Swift here and there, but I only try to grab him if he goes a little later than normal. Yeah. If I see him in the 4th, I'm grabbing him. He's definitely not someone that I'm depending on to be my RB1. So if you are, then you're out of luck in the first 3 rounds, because you're probably starting with that tight end, wide receiver, and then you're looking for a running back instead of that wide receiver for your 3rd, or you're going 0 RB and you just avoid him at all, but I think he can be somewhat of a value if you can grab him later. Another guy that I see is Noah Fant with a lower leg injury. They're not labeling it an ankle, but they're labeling it as a lower leg at this point. Last year he had issues with his ankle, so definitely something to keep an eye on if you are looking to grab him. He's another one of those tight ends at the middle of the pack that everyone is unsure of. And I'm not going to go into the quarterback thing yet because that's actually going to be our next conversation. Since we currently have a lot of our preseason games basically over, there's only one quarterback battle that's still kind of going is the San Francisco quarterback. So we'll wait and see about that one. But there have been quite a few that have been determined. And from those, we got, of course, which if you didn't already know, Trevor Lawrence is one of them. So he's going to be starting week 1. Another guy who I'm a little shocked about, but I'm pretty, I'm happy that he got is Teddy Bridgewater for the Broncos. All camp, they were talking up Drew Lock and how he was doing, how well he's been playing, how much better he's gotten. I'm a little shocked by this. How are you?
I definitely didn't expect it. I'm happy about it. I didn't expect it. But I think Teddy Bridgewater is what us as fantasy players probably, maybe we didn't know we wanted, but I think it's going to be what we wanted. Like, I think it's going to be better. Like Noah Fant becomes viable. Teddy Bridgewater actually had better downfield passing numbers than Drew Lock did last year. He didn't do it as much, but he was more accurate down the field. So I think like Cortland Sutton becomes still solid. Jerry Jeudy could be a smash. The thing that Bridgewater does is check down, and I think that makes Javonte Williams really intriguing again, the rookie there, because he's probably going to be the guy that's going to catch more passes. So I think it makes the Broncos offense, a little bit more viable. Like we saw Teddy Bridgewater be able to support Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore last season for the Panthers,
and Curtis Samuel.
Yeah, so why can't he support Cortland Sutton, Jerry Jeudy, and Noah Fant? I think it could definitely happen. Maybe the difference is, well, the Denver Broncos defense is one of the best in the NFL, so he doesn't have to. But I think to me, this is the ideal scenario because Drew Lock going out and suck and just being terrible would be bad for everyone.
I agree with you there. I mean, I was really happy to hear this. I've always been a really big fan of Teddy Bridgewater. Just from the journey that he's had from his injury. He had one of the worst injuries you could possibly imagine. And it's really great to see him coming back into the league, starting with those backup roles and getting an opportunity in New Orleans when Breeze went down. All those steps to get to where he is now, where he can be that starting, quarterback. I'm really happy for him. I also think it's a huge thing. Like you said, he was able to support 3 wide receivers for 3,000, for 1,000 yards each. So, I'm really looking forward to seeing what he can do in Denver. So we'll definitely see how that goes. Another guy that won it out, which it is what it is, Andy Dalton. He got the starting job so far. I don't fully agree with it. I think Justin Fields looked fantastic. We'll talk about Fields in a little bit, but he has the starting job week 1. I don't think he carries the job throughout the year. I'm assuming you feel the same way. But I'm assuming, so I'm going to ask, do you feel the same way?
Yeah, I mean, we can get into Fields later, but I think this will be very, very short-lived.
Yeah, me too. The next we got is this one I definitely wanted to talk a minute about. I'm going to try not to go too long about it because I could literally go on a tangent for an hour, and I don't want to. But Tyrod Taylor is getting that starting spot in Houston this year in week 1. And this is all because of the fact that the team is going to be putting Deshaun Watson as a healthy scratch this year. Now, I've put a lot of research into this. I've done a lot of, looking into it because this whole scenario with Deshaun Watson has made me gone, off the wall trying to figure out what the hell is going to happen. And everyone kept screaming, the commissioner exempt list. And I was even screaming it. I thought that was going to be the case. I thought that that Goodell can use it, but apparently he can't even use it because of the fact that they're not able to look into his investigation until after his investigation is completed by, whoever's investigating it now. And in this case, it's FBI and a few other people, because apparently he's involved with an FBI case now. But I think he's on the good end of that. I think he's being extorted by somebody else and, something to do with this. So he's got the 22 civil and the 10 criminal. So once those are all figured out, then, Goodell can step in and do that. But the team apparently has the ability, of course, to healthy scratch him, which they did, which I am I used to be a big fan of the Texans when, I'm a big Giants fan, but I used to like the Texans because they were that last expansion team. They were trying it out. I loved Andre Johnson when he was coming in, and, Owen Daniels when he was there. I had an affinity for these guys were, really big, and, you felt for these guys. And now all the things that happened with, the team with Bill O'Brien and him trading off, Hopkins and, doing all these crazy things, and you kind of lose, interest in them. But I give them a little bit of respect for the concept that they have a weapon, top 5 talent on the bench that they're willing to bench, and knowing why. I mean, it's definitely clear on why, but at the same time, it's great to know that they have a brand new head coach, not willing to, give in to all the, the pressures and just say, nope, I understand you want to be traded, but no, you are not going to play. So I'm just, how do you feel about it? I haven't gotten to hear your take on it. So how do you feel about this?
No, I feel similarly. I mean, whatever comes of this, like, Sean Watson's not going to come out of it looking good. There's not, it's not going to happen. And like you said, everyone thought a suspension was coming. Like, the examples are very early. They're years ago when the Goodell did things first. Now they wait, so it makes sense. I think if Watson wanted to play for the Texans, I think he would be playing. Like, I think they probably would play him if he wanted to. Maybe I'm not 100% of that. So I think that's what complicates this. And I'm with you. I mean, I'm glad they're going to say, like, you don't want to be here, and we don't want you to be here. Both those things, and we can't get rid of you until all this is sorted out. No one's going to touch them. So I'm done drafting him. Like, I think last Friday in the Superflex league, I kind of went. I took Trey Lance my number 2, and I took Watson just the last round just in case. But it's not even worth that anymore. And I mean, there's a question of if he'll play again. Like, I think he if he doesn't go to jail, then I think he will. But it might be in 2 years. And now, does anyone really want him? So I think he's just his career could be close to over.
Yeah, and it's a shame. He was a top 5 guy for his first 3-4 years in the league. He was an incredible talent, and no one's doubting the talent. It's really just everything surrounding him at this point. I keep sitting there and I keep going. I'm like, dude, you put yourself in this situation where you could have had a way out. You could have made it so that you could have. There are other guys that have gone into and asked for trades, and they got a trade, or they didn't get a trade, and they just kind of went along with how things went, and everything went fine. There was no real big issue. And I think that was his biggest, downfall, is instead of just kind of rolling with it, kind of going, yeah, no one's going to want to touch me. So why don't I just kind of get in there and, I'll practice, and, if they want to put me in with the ones, great, but at least show effort. Then maybe someone would want you. Because I think that when they started seeing him being that, that third back, the guy playing defense and crap, like when I was seeing that, I'm like, no one's going to touch him. And now they're not. And Houston kind of misses out because they drafted him so high, and they had so much capital put into him that he's basically, they can't even get a wash out of it. Like, they're paying the guy to sit on the bench to do nothing. And it's a shame. It really is. And I'm happy for Tyrod Taylor. I've been a big fan of him. He always just tends to get the shit end of the stick everywhere he goes, and he does well. Like, he's a good quarterback. I mean, he's a viable bridge quarterback. He's someone that you can depend on. I know they have Davis Mills waiting in the wings that they drafted and everything, but he is definitely someone that I'm really happy got his particular job. So we'll get off of him for now. And the last guy that is a huge shock to me, and I'm a little upset, but he earned it, is Jameis Winston. He just took over that job after week 2. I was real big on Taysom Hill. I've been a supporter of Taysom Hill since he started doing his thing and, had his opportunity last year, and he shit the bed. He did. He did not look good in week 2. He looked scared. He looked like just scared. Happy feet, not letting the ball go. Winston just looked comfortable, looked good, even with a crappy wide receiver group. I mean, Callaway's really good. I really like him in a lot of, if you're getting him real late. I tried getting him in a bunch of leagues and everyone sniped him from me. I was really pissed. But he is no, dude. He always one pick off, and he always got taken right before me. But Winston deserved it. I think he'll do well there. I think that does open it up for them a little bit. They can still use, Taysom Hill, the way that they did. They can, Kamara becomes more valuable. So I think that this kind of changes things and makes things a little bit better for the Saints. But we'll see how that goes. Hopefully he's not the, 33 for 30 type guy with his touchdown to interception ratio. But if he can go for those 5,000 yards and more and do well, then he's a steal at the end of your draft. That late QB guy that you can grab that no one's thinking about right now. So how do you feel about it?
I think this is the worst case scenario for fantasy players. Jameis winning this job, because
interesting.
What's going to happen, right? Is Jameis Winston starting quarterback, which seems good. When they get inside the 20, Taysom Hill's still going to come in, and like Jameis Winston isn't Drew Brees where you can overcome that. So there's not, those goal line touchdowns are not going to be his, and I just think that's not good for you, for your fantasy team. Like to get a big pass down the field to Marcus Callaway and he gets tackled at the 10. Here comes Taysom Hill, runs in for a touchdown. You can't start either of them, and it almost makes it just not a viable position. Like, now we know Jameis likes to sling it, so maybe he can get some touch. He's going for those long bombs to get those touchdowns, but like, I think that's a lot of faith to put in to him week to week. Like, I don't mind having him as like a QB3 in a super flex, but I think past that, just because of that Taysom Hill piece, like if Hill had won the job, he would have been on the field all the time. And now it's going to be almost, like it was last year. And I think that's a problem. Now I think Alvin Kamara is the one that wins. Like Jameis Winston is not, Mr. Checkdown, but he is willing to do it. And he does like
for sure
throwing to the running backs. So if nothing's open downfield, he will check it down. Like Taysom Hill, I think would have really hurt that for Kamara too. And so we'll see what happens there. But I can't imagine it's going to be a super viable position unless Taysom Hill is gone.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, and that's the thing with this particular situation. He doesn't have Mike Evans and Chris Godwin and, company there. He has nobody. So if he can work with these guys and do well, I mean, he's even short with, Troutman, who I was really big on, and now that's hurt. He has all these guys that he can't rely on that he had in Tampa. It's going to be a little bit of a different offense. I think he's going to have to lean on Kamara a little bit more out of the backfield. So, as Calback said, he's happy that this happened. And yes, he will have to probably, rely on him a little bit more. So we'll see how that goes. I really wished that Taysom got it. I have Taysom in Dynasty, but I understand why someone like Ethan and owners of Kamara in Dynasty are really happy about this. So, all right. The next thing I wanted to get into is running backs. Now, the one thing that I keep seeing in every situation is the three-headed running back by committee. This is happening everywhere. And it is starting to become something where the bell cow running back is pretty much gone the way of the dodo. You do not have those guys in your league anymore, except for the rare exceptions of, Christian McCaffrey, Derrick Henry, Alvin Kamara, Dalvin Cook, and, maybe Najee Harris. But all these guys, it's very rare. Oh, sorry. What up, Han Solo? How you doing, man? It's very rare to have a backfield these days go with a, one bell cow approach. It tends to have a more three-headed monster or running back by committee. And a lot of these have shown these teams like the Jets, even the Ravens, even though they only have two running backs and but I always count Lamar as a running back in this because he's always taken away. If he's rushing for 1,000 yards, he is a running back. Then you got guys like the Dolphins, the Texans, the Jaguars. Even with ETN out, I still think they're going to use guys like Shenault or Tavon Austin to run that particular role. Other teams like the Colts, the Bucks, the Patriots, all of them are going to be using these particular things. So when you are looking at these particular teams and you're looking to draft from these particular teams, what running back are you looking for? Are you looking for the starter, or, are you looking for the third down back? Who are you looking to go for in any of these types of offenses?
Look, I think that the top guy is always good, but that can be expensive. So I think you can get values with the clear number twos. So I think taking a Gus Edwards, taking a Salvon Ahmed, to taking even one of the Tampa backs, Fournette, or I even think Giovanni Bernard's probably the value there. Like, I think is good. And I think one of the things in fantasy that we make the mistake on, and I still do it and shouldn't, is like handcuffing our own players, right? Like you don't have to do that. You really want to hit, especially if you're playing best ball, you really want to hit someone else's handcuff to give you, two options week to week instead of one, is very helpful. And so I think drafting those type of players, and it's why I think, look, I can't do zero RB. Like I'm not that bold. But
yeah,
I've had a couple mocks and none of you liked them. But I had a couple mocks where I went one, right? Where I went one and took a couple of these guys later. And I think it's a fine strategy. I think taking those type of running backs later, like there's a good chance you're going to get 3 or 4 games of starting potential out of one of these players. And so having 3 or 4 of them is probably going to end up in pretty good shape. So, I mean, we can get to the J.K. Dobbins talk, because I know you guys brought that up for my team. But like, I do think in a lot of these situations, I'm kind of hitting that backup later a lot of times from these.
So which out of these groups, like out of those teams that I listed, Jets, Ravens, Dolphins, Texans, Jaguars, Colts, Tampa, and the Patriots, what team would you prefer the starter over anybody in that?
So, I mean, I think with ETN out, I think James Robinson's going to do really well. I don't think he'll have a 90+% share like last year, but
I hope he does.
it's not going to happen. But like you said, I think Laviska Shenault will play that joker role in Urban Meyer's offense, where ETN looked like he was slated to play. So Curtis Samuel played at Ohio State, right, which was part in the backfield, part in the slot, moving around, a lot of pre-snap motion. So I think Robinson will still be the running back. And so I think his value right now is tough. I think there's some people willing to like dive in the second round. Like, I can't do that. But if, I'll take him over, especially like a Darrell Henderson at this point, I'll take him over those type of players. I think him and DeAndre Swift are probably pretty close for me with Swift's injury issues. And then I really love J.K. Dobbins. And I think
I know we have to have this conversation, because I am not as high on J.K. Dobbins as you are. I see the potential. I get why. Tell me why you're so big on him.
I just think there's not much that has to go right for him to be an RB1. And so, because you have Lamar Jackson there, and he runs the football. It does create more efficiency, right? J.K. Dobbins is going to get 300 touches. It's not going to happen. We know that. And I think that's the fear. But like the efficiency is going to be better. And that's what he was last year, right? So, if we take his like yards per carry, right, I think it was 6 yards a carry. We stick around that. He got a touchdown about every 17 touches or so. And if we pump up his workload, like I think the Ravens are going to pass a little bit more. I think he's going to get a little bit more of a workload than last year, right? I mean, I don't know if you agree with that, but I think, I think with barely playing early in the season, maybe he can get. I think he had almost 150 touches. Let's even say like if he gets 200, which I think touches, not even carries, I think is viable. And if his, reception to rush ratio is a little bit better, if he gets a little more catches, which I think is going to happen, then we can see 11 to 12 touchdowns, 1,200 total yards, 40-ish catches. That would have been RB9 last year. If he gets like a 1,050 rushing yards and 250 receiving yards, keeps his 9 touchdowns, doesn't even get more touchdowns, 35 catches. That was an RB1 last year. So I don't think he has to get much better to be an RB1. And that's kind of my case. Like if the Ravens throw a little bit more, especially with Rashad Bateman going to be out for weeks, with Marquise Brown's hurt, I think J.K. Dobbins is going to be the number 2 pass catcher till Bateman comes back. I think there's some big potential there. So
my thing is, in a backfield like this, hold on, let's see what Ethan says. The best part about Dobbins is his floor. I agree, and against him saying he's never going to be, but I love him because he's never going to be the worst. Then and I agree with that. He's definitely, to me, he's a safer RB2 than he is a RB1, but he has the upside of being an RB1. So he's definitely somebody that you can target a little bit later. But I've seen a lot of people target him in like the 2nd, 3rd round where you're looking for, where you drafted the wide receiver and then you're drafting a RB1 and he's the guy. But I wouldn't probably touch him until 3rd round, but that's just me. I know other people are a little bit more willing to grab him early. But you're not wrong. I like what you had to say about that. It makes sense. I mean, he had 6 yards of carry. I think he led the league last year. No, he was 3rd. And third is very comparable because Marlon Mack and TJ Yeldon. But if you want to take all those guys out and guys that carry the ball more than 130 times, then I would definitely, he's number 1 on that whole list. So I can definitely see that for him. I've just been very low on him because of the team in general. I mean, you have 3 really good. I mean, you have 2 plus Lamar that can put up 1,000 yards apiece, and having a full group of running backs running for more than 2,000 yards. I mean, I know that Henry can do it on his own, but trying to get everybody to go above 1,000 each is just it's just astronomical. You cannot have that happen if they're looking to spread the ball out, which everyone is hoping they do. They picked up Bateman for that reason. They traded for Zeitler, or picked up Zeitler he's one of the best pass protection right guards in the league. Giants had him for years, a couple of years, and I was very happy with him. So they're definitely looking to pass the ball more. But I then think, I mean, for me, I'm low on Lamar Jackson too, because I don't think he's an accurate passer. I really don't like him. He's outside my top 10. I know that's weird and a little odd, but he's outside my top 10. I'm just not high on him. He can't throw. He threw for less than 25. I think it was less than 2,500 yards last season, and he ran for the 1,000. But no, he was 2,700 yards and ran, rushed for 1,000. That's fantastic. But here's the problem: you need to take the running out and kind of pass it and do a little bit better. And then you can kind of level out a little bit. For me, I'd rather have a guy like Kyler Murray or a guy like Russell Wilson that can rush for 600 yards, get the 6-7 rushing touchdowns, and then have a ridiculously, 4,000 or higher, passing, and then you can be considered up there. Even his monstrous season as the QB1, he ran for, what was it, 1,500 yards, was it? Mm-hmm. And at the same time, he only threw for 3,000 yards. So for me, I've never been high on him. He's only been declining. And, I understand going from the top, you can only go down. But at the same time, he's only gone, to me, he's just never proven anything to me that whenever I watch him, he's just very inaccurate. He reminds me of Cam Newton, like now Cam Newton, not like, rookie Cam Newton. And he just does, I don't know. His game is just so predictable in my eyes that he's gotten to the point where I just don't want him in anything. Like everyone else is really high on him, and I get the rushing floor and all that. I'm just not high on him. But that's the problem with me with Dobbins, is that I feel like Lamar will take away a lot of the opportunities, even with the passing, because teams will understand what's going to happen is that he needs to go to guys like Dobbins, and they're going to cover that flat that he's going to go out to. And, they're going to keep him pretty, covered, because they don't have any other, good passing options for the moment until Bateman gets back. So I'm just very low on Dobbins' output. I'm willing to draft him if he's available, but at a value that I can actually feel comfortable with. If it's second, third round, I'm not doing it. He went in the first round in one of my leagues, and I'm like, no.
Yeah, I probably wouldn't take him first, but I'll take him the early second. Like, honestly, from what you said, like, I almost feel like you're higher on Gus Edwards is the issue. You're low on Dobbins. Like, if you think, like, I don't think Gus Edwards can run for 1,000 yards. Like, I don't think he's going to hit that this year.
I just think he's a better runner. He's more downhill, and he has the ability to cut through that hole. That's what I saw on tape.
He might be a more of a downhill runner. I don't disagree with you there, but I don't think that's what this offense is predicated on either. Like it's good. Like it's good to have, and I don't think he's bad. But and I'll definitely draft him, right? If Dobbins gets hurt, like I'll be in on Gus Edwards. But I mean, to run for 6 yards a carry is, that's the explosiveness that the team needs. So, and I think I won't get into Lamar, but I think that there's a lot of credit to, to Wink and the offensive coordinator and how they do change things. Because I think what you'll see is, Bateman's a slant runner, Mark Andrews can run shallow, and Dobbins out of the backfield. Like it's going to be shallow stuff. It's stuff that Lamar Jackson can do, but will still be difficult to defend. And then Marquise Brown still, as we saw late last season, if teams start playing down, you can open him up, which they weren't doing early in the season. So I think it's interesting. I trust the offense, and I trust if Dobbins keeps this efficiency, all he needs is a little bit more volume, and he hits those RB1 marks. So that's why I'm in, and I think the consistency doesn't hurt.
You're slowly bringing my
I'm trying just a little bit,
arrow towards just a little bit. It's only going to move a little bit, but I definitely see your point. I mean, he's definitely better options than guys like I've been really high on Gaskins all season. I hope he gets the value that he got last year, but I understand that they're going to be running a different committee. So we'll see how that goes. Texans, they've been doing their let's take the old guy, and they have, I think their youngest guy is 27. In that running back room, and that's David Johnson, who they're not even using as a number one. They're using him as a 3. They're using Mark Ingram and Philip Lindsay as their starter. So that's just unbelievable to me. Other teams like Tampa, who they run, Rojo and Fournette, which that's another. I really like Rojo. I'm a little disappointed that Tampa went and got Fournette. I was really upset when that happened. I was also upset because I drafted Fournette as my RB1, being that I had no first, second, or third round pick, and I drafted him before he moved to Tampa. And but I still got third in that league, so I'm very happy. But it was disappointing. I really like Rojo. I actually just traded him away because I can't deal with the swings of Bruce Arians and everything. Hold on. Anthony, what up? How you doing, brother? I know he's been busy today. He's been having some domicile issues that he needs to take care of at home, but he also had his league he was drafting today, so he had a league that he got to get into. Yeah, of course, brother. We always miss you in here. We should be on for a little bit longer. So if you want to jump in, be my guest if you have the minute. So yeah, I just we got the Nerd Huddle in here. What's going on? How's everybody doing over there? Guys, got to check them out. They're really a fun podcast to listen to. I've been a part of Dynasty Pylon a couple times and been with those guys, Martin and Mark. So definitely check them out. They're usually on Wednesdays, if memory serves me correct. So definitely check them out. So now that we're done with the running backs, let's get into things. Now that the preseason's over, we kind of have a little bit more of a better idea of how these rookies came out. We got a chance to see, a lot of really good rookies come out. So you have your option in redraft. You have the quarterbacks that are available. Who are you going with?
I like them all. Like I actually think in redraft, I think going after rookies are a good idea that can give you upside, and if it doesn't work out, you have options. I'm still going to take Trevor Lawrence first. I know the preseason has scared people away. I'm telling you, I've been grading NFL draft prospects since 2004. I wrote an article for Fake Pigskin last year. Trevor Lawrence is the greatest quarterback prospect I've ever scouted.
Wow.
And he's and I don't watch John Elway or whatever, but he's up there. Last season, the game was almost too easy. He looked bored. Some of his bad play was him trying to do things he just didn't have to do just to do it. He was kind of at that point. And I think the NFL's coming at him fast. I think, there's definitely some fear with Urban Meyer in the offense. Watching the preseason games, I don't think that's their offense. I don't think they're bringing out anything we're going to see in the regular season. It seems so vanilla. And maybe Darrell Bevel sucks and is that bad as a coordinator, but I think Trevor Lawrence will be fine. So we'll see. My fear is they're not going to run him much, and he can run, and that's important. But I do like targeting Fields and Lance because of the upside. Now, I don't think either one's going to start. So some of my strategies have been to take Ben Roethlisberger or Ryan Fitzpatrick and pair them with Fields or Trey Lance. And then that way you have a solid veteran that can start the year, because I think once those two guys get in, their rushing ability and the downfield passing ability is just going to smash. And I think Zach Wilson's a value too. He's looked good. The Jets they lost their two best defensive players, are out for the year. He's going to have to throw a ton. They have good receiving options. They don't really have a running game. He can be viable too. So if I don't get kind of that upperish echelon of quarterbacks, so if I don't get Lamar, Dak, Kyler, those kind of guys, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, I'll wait. I'll wait pretty late. And if you have the roster space to roster two, then I'll take one of the rookies. I'll take an older guy, and I think you'll find you'll find a QB1.
Nice. No, I feel the same way. I'm a little bit higher on Wilson. I get an opportunity in New York to be able to watch him a little bit more than most people. And I've really liked what I've seen. He had a good zip on the ball. He put it, he made throws that he needed to. Really good contested catches and stuff like that. I feel like he just put the ball where it needed to be, and he had really good vision with it. So I really do think he looked really good this season. I like him in redraft a lot, late in rounds. I'm not against Trevor Lawrence either. I think, as you said, he was one of the highest quality guys that you could find in prospects. And, I think he's the highest since Andrew Luck. So, I mean, he's definitely somebody that is, viable, but I've really liked Wilson, what I've seen. For dynasty guys like Fields and Wilson, I'm still high on too. So those guys I would definitely target if you have the opportunity. So besides I think we got a really good look at the quarterbacks this year. I'm really excited for how this turns out. I also like Mac Jones. I hope he wins that job. I think he looks way better than Cam Newton. That's my own, little thing about him. I think he takes over before week 4. I hope he starts week 1. But I really do think I think he makes the offense look better. He had a really good quick release. I thought he works well with that Josh McDaniels offense. I'm not saying he looked like Brady, but he had that quick release of Brady where he gets the ball in the 3-step and it's out, and he didn't have to think about it. So I really think that he has the ability to do well. So those are a lot of the guys that are out there that you can definitely, take a flyer on. Dynasty, I would be aiming more for Mac than redraft. But if you are lacking options, definitely somebody you can go to in deeper drafts. So let's go and move on to the rookie running backs. And we're going to leave Najee out of this because we all know he's going to get, 200 plus, and he's fine in Pittsburgh. But beyond Najee, who do you think is the better value at this point?
So I think value, I think it's Trey Sermon for San Francisco. I think we see him come out of the gate and be the starter or get starter type touches. I think he can get 50 to 60% of the touches, which is pretty good for San Francisco. Wow. And I thought one of my bold predictions, I think he goes 100 yards against week 1, 100 yards.
Wow.
Against Detroit. So to me, that's a good value. I think he is better than Raheem Mostert. For Trey Sermon, he's not the most talented running back, but he is a zone runner. That's what he did at Ohio State. That's what he's good at. He's good at the one cut, get to hit that hole and go, right? Find that hole and he has the acceleration, maybe not the deep speed. So I think he's such a perfect fit for this offense that he is going to do well, especially if Trey Lance is starting. But if Jimmy G is, it's fine too. So I think in terms of value, he's probably the best value. I still love Javonte Williams. I think he's going to be one of those later in the season, will really help you guys. But Sermon's probably the best value where he's going to me.
Nice. No, that makes sense. I mean, I see him going 9th round and usually an RB3. He's usually the running back 3 or 4. For some people's teams. How do you feel about these guys being your RB2?
I think it can work if So I think the RB2 is the least valuable position on your fantasy team. I don't think the RB2 matters. I probably shouldn't get into this now. We're going a while, but and I think it's why for a lot of these mocks, my team doesn't look great because I don't value RB2 usually unless a good value drops to me. Because I think if you can be better at me than RB2 and you got to put a pretty heavy investment, usually people are going to have to put a pretty heavy investment into those high-end running backs. And it can kind of give a leg up elsewhere. So I'm comfortable with Javonte Williams or Trey Sermon as an RB2. Once again, if you take some shots at later, at like we were talking about before, at the Gus Edwards of the world, or some of these backups that could have could have some viability. I think you're going to find an RB2 in there, and if it's weak, if you're weak at that position for a couple weeks and have to hit the waiver wire or wait for that, you could do that, and I think be okay. So that's kind of my philosophy. Like I said, I can't go full zero RB. I can't do it. Give me that round 1 or round 2 running back. But after that, I think people maybe do trend. I think running backs are going maybe a little too high because people just feel like I need to get that RB2 when you probably don't, and you could take a Trey Sermon and you're probably going to have someone that can fill in that position for you at a much better value.
Interesting. Yeah, I don't have the cojones to be able to get a guy like Sherman as my RB2 because for me, he's somebody that he has the value of being better later in the year. And I don't like week 1, I don't know what he's going to be able to do. So that makes it where I feel like I'm losing points. Now, granted, he could do well week 1 going against Detroit. Anyone could probably do good against Detroit. But at the same time, you can have for me, I would just feel like if I had Javonte Williams as my number 2, I'm a little nervous because I know that you have guys like Melvin Gordon in front of him that can do well to start the year, but he might not get anything week 1 for you. And he probably won't get anything until week 8 or 9 where you're, stuck and you don't really have much value underneath, because if you're getting to the point where you're drafting Javonte Williams in the 8th, 6th, 7th, 8th round, wherever he ends up falling to, you're in a position where then the guys after that aren't any better to fill that particular spot until you get to that point where Javonte Williams or Trey Sermon or whoever you end up picking that's that second round talent is able to take over and get those big numbers that you were looking for, that you invested. So, around that 8th, 9th round. So for me, it's a little bit of a risk.
Look, it's definitely a risk. I won't deny that. And I think it's why, I like going tight end early. I want one of the top 3 tight ends because I will beat you a tight end every week, right? And I don't think you definitely will beat my RB2 every week. So my goal is to make the playoffs. And then agreed. If my team's set up to win the playoffs, then I'm good. So I'm happy with give me Javonte and Sermon back to back. Give me them both as my RB2. I think one of them is going to work out earlier than we think, right? I think it's going to happen. Maybe Javonte's not. Maybe Melvin Gordon's still the guy. Javonte Williams can get 2 catches for 20 yards, 30 yards rushing and a touchdown. That's great. That's fine RB2 numbers to me when I have Travis Kelce and you have Logan Thomas, right? So that's kind of my thinking is if I can kind of finesse that position, I think that position's one that you can finesse a little bit more than tight end 1 or even high end receivers. Sometimes receiver you can definitely get that hit, but that's just a philosophical difference that. Look, is risky and can blow up and your team can be terrible. But at the same time, I think it gives you a good chance then, if I take both those guys, say Javonte is viable, but Sermon's not, and then Sermon hits in the fantasy playoffs, now I just won the league. And that's really my goal.
No, understood. And that makes sense. I mean, grabbing those guys late and, but for me, I rather have them as my RB3 or 4, because then I can bench them until they do well to then use them, compared to having that guy already, that RB2 that I can use, throughout the year. I'd rather be drafting them later. And that's just my philosophy and how I do it, because I'd rather have that guy later, like you said, for the playoffs, but I'd rather it be where I know that he's not going to get the numbers I want. So I'd rather have a guy that will have those numbers. And then when that guy is able, whoever it is, I have guys like Carter, who unfortunately lost his battle to be won, even though they talked him up in camp. And other guys, like the guys you mentioned with Javonte Williams and Trey Sermon. So for those guys, I would prefer to have them just as guys that I can put on my bench. I have no problem using wide receivers on my flex spot if that becomes the case. So for me, I'd rather have an RB2 that I can rely on than to have a rookie that is too much of a risk. But that's just my philosophy compared. And I get yours. You make complete sense using that tight end first. And people should be looking for that, because you're right. The tight end you're going to beat me every week. But my other thought is, how much are you going to beat me by? And for me, for some guys like in tight end, I like going more later tight end, even though I really like the top 3. If you can get those 3, grab them. But if you can get the later guy that has value, like the Higbees, the Everts, the Irv Smiths, all those guys that are a little bit lower that can get you 8 to 12, 8 to 14 points a day, a game. Yes, you might have Kelsey go off for 20 against me one day, but then I'm going to, it's only a couple points that are a huge difference. My running backs and wide receivers will make up for that. But that's my philosophy during the season and how I think about it. You have a different thought process. I like that thought process, but it's a risk. It's more of a risky way to think about it for me. And I've always just been a consistent guy. I like the consistency. I like guys that are, getting me 10 points a game, that I can get my 90 to 110 points easy and then have upside on top, based on your league settings and all that.
Sure. I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out.
Yeah, of course.
Guys like Irv and Higbee, they gave me some goose eggs last year too. And so you get that, and now, things change. And look, I'd love to have like Trey Sermon, Javonte RB6, but it's about kind of give and take, right? Of where we could take. So that's why I think fantasy's fun, because not everyone has to go in with different strategies. And that's why a lot of these mocks have been fun too. Yeah,
agreed. So now that we got the running backs out of the way, we're going to jump to wide receivers in redraft. So rookie wide receivers in redraft, who do you like?
Man, I like a lot of them. I really love.
Who's your number one? And I wanted to take Chase out of this, but I'll let you have Chase for this.
If I can take Chase, I'll take Chase. I think he's bounced back, and if you get any kind of value because of one bad preseason game when he hasn't played in almost 2 years, please, take that value. I'll still take Chase, but I'm kind of which I know you're going to talk about him too, but I like Terrace Marshall a ton. Good. He was my wide receiver 2 pre-draft. It was Chase, then him before the draft. Wow. And injuries are what knocked him down. People were worried about the leg and if that was going to be a long-term thing. Maybe it still will, but he is. I think he's like a Des Bryant type of receiver, and I think that's what he's going to be in the NFL. So I think we'll see that year one. I don't think it's going to be Justin Jefferson like that. That's a big outlier, right? Especially with the guys around.
Weren't they all teammates?
Yeah, right. All 3 of those guys.
All 3 of them.
And they are all good. It isn't a case of one propping up another. So I'm happy taking Terrace. I'm happy taking one of the Moores. Elijah Moore, I think, will do well with Zach. If Zach Wilson's going to do well, Elijah Moore is probably going to do well in New York. And I will take Rondale Moore. I think Arizona uses the 4 receiver sets. He's going to be on the field. Yeah. I think that's ideal. I'm even fine with Rashad Bateman in the last round. I think when he gets back, I think he's going to do well. So I actually like this was a good receiver class again.
Yeah.
And I think I'm happy loading my bench with rookie receivers. If 2 of them work out, to be our wide receiver 2s, that's a game changer for your fantasy team.
Nice. Yeah. I like you said, Marshall is probably one of my favorite to grab everywhere. I have more shares of him than I do most players. I targeted him in Dynasty. I targeted him in redraft. I went for him everywhere. I think he's incredibly talented. I think that Sam Darnold can help, can produce the 3, in that offense. I think he can have the 3 wide receivers doing 1,000 yards like Burrow did last year with Tyler Boyd and T. Higgins with AJ Green there. I think he can do something similar to what T. Higgins did last year. T. Higgins finished as the wide receiver 28. So I see that as a good baseline of where he can be, and then only go up from there. He was definitely a big talent. I think he's wonderful. The other guy I like is Rondale Moore, like you mentioned. They've been using him everywhere. Watching preseason, he's getting 4 or 5 touches in every series that he's doing, if not more. and they're using him in the backfield. They're using him as a motion guy. They're going all over the place with him, and I feel like they're kind of putting the offense not around him, but they're kind of making it where he can be a little bit interchangeable when teams are double teaming Hopkins, and and then you got AJ Green, who's a little bit older and still kind of moving around. And, I think he can definitely work in to get that, wide receiver 2-3 spot and even that slot away from Christian Kirk. So we'll see how that goes. But
let me toss one more. Can I toss one more name?
Yeah.
I think at the end of the season, Josh Palmer is going to be someone
Yeah.
going to win roster. I think he's going to win that wide receiver 3 job. Mike Williams has health issues.
Yeah.
They don't really, I think Jared Cook's going to do well, but I think Palmer could be a late pickup for sure.
So my only question with that is they had a guy last season. I'm going to probably get the name wrong. It was Johnson. I think
Tyron Johnson.
Was it Tyron? Yeah. He had a really good season last year. Like, I mean, he wasn't like, top wide receiver, but he was a really good like third option for them. Do you think he can beat out a guy like him?
Yes. So I think they play different positions to me.
Oh, okay.
So I think Tyron is probably kind of that deeper guy, which is a little bit mixed up in this with this new offense. It seems like they have Mike Williams kind of playing the Mike Thomas role, right, of moving inside, outside, and Keenan Allen actually being more of the quote unquote deeper threat, which I know is what we view Keenan Allen as. But I think, I think Tyron Johnson's kind of more backup Keenan Allen. Palmer will be more the slot, and I think backup Mike Williams. So I think that's actually a little bit different, and I think so I think Palmer will get a little more playing time. That's just my. It's a long shot, but that's my guess.
No, nice. I knew very little about Josh Palmer. I've seen a lot of analysts and a lot of other people targeting him very late in drafts, and now I have an idea why. All right, so now that we've gotten through all the rookies, I just wanted to get one late round value pick that you have this year. I was going to ask you for 2 of them. But who do you have as that late round guy, non-rookie? Let's go with somebody that's not rookie, that you would take in most of your drafts.
So kind of my guy that I've been taking, late that hasn't really, I thought would rise up a little bit is Gabe Davis, the receiver for the Buffalo Bills. Nice. I think he takes a step forward. I was impressed with him last year. I thought he was starting to show that he has a little more juice than he's given credit for. The Bills, which with Josh Allen, I think they're going to have to spread the ball a little bit more. Diggs isn't going to do what he did last year. So I think Gabe Davis is a player who could be a nice bench guy and, get some shots in there. So he's probably my late round. Yeah, my late round toss. That's not like super, super deep.
Nice. Who's another guy?
So the other one that I'd take last round is Anthony McFarland, running back for the Steelers.
Interesting.
Najee is going to be the guy. Like you said, he's going to get 300 touches. I covered Steelers camp for 24/7 Sports for a couple in games. And it was interesting. Matt Canada's new offense. Matt Canada was Anthony McFarland's college coach in Maryland. So they have a close relationship. Anthony McFarland's a clear number 2.
Okay. On
the Steelers. They actually were running some 2 running back sets. They were putting him at receiver, putting him in motion. Steelers are going to have the most motion in the league this year. So I think look for McFarland to get 5 to 10 touches a game, and could be one of those players if Najee gets hurt, or even in certain situations that he could be viable. So there's a much deeper pick there for.
No, that's awesome. Yeah, I had 2 guys that I thought about, and one of them is Jacoby Myers for the New England Patriots. I really like what he has to show. I mean, he was, I know. He finished wide receiver 52. He did just a little bit less than what Julio did last year. But from weeks 8 to 16, which is that time and, where you're pushing for the playoffs and in the playoffs, he was wide receiver 20, and he did really well working with guys like Cam Newton. So even with Cam Newton, he did well. The thing that people kind of shy away from is the fact that he didn't have any touchdowns, which I understand that can be a little bit low on his production, but that can only mean that he can go up in touchdowns. So he's definitely someone I've been targeting late and definitely like having. Another guy who I already mentioned before is Marquez Callaway. I think even though he's the only guy there, you know, if you're the only guy, you got to get something. And he was really good last season. Just had, you know, a couple of good grabs. Even playing with Drew Brees, he did well. So he's definitely someone I'm looking for. You know, he'll do well until Michael Thomas gets back. But right now, Thomas's outlook is you know, no one's sure. I'm predicting after week 9, 10, something like that. So he's definitely someone that can help you get to where you need to be, and then you can, you know, figure out what you want to do when he comes back. But I really do like Marquez Callaway. He got taken from me so many times, so that's my guy. But we'll kind of not end on that. But what we're going to be doing now is you get to be here for this, which I'm really happy about, is we get to announce the 3 winners of the Listener League for this year for Get Right Fantasy Network. And the 3 guys that we did a simulation 100-yard thing. I have to get it to you. It's posted currently on the web, or it's currently posted in YouTube. And if you could help me out, if you're watching, throw that link up. But the winners are, we got Magoats 20. We got Lou Camp, and we got one of the guys that was watching all night, and that's why I told you to stay on, and we'll let you know, is Ethan Cobell. I'm sorry that I know I butchered last names, but you are in it as well. So congratulations to those 3. We have our draft tomorrow at 10:30 p.m. Eastern, 7:30 Pacific. So wait for Anthony to get in touch with you guys for invites for that. We have a couple of guys. There you go. Congratulations, Ethan. We're really happy to have you. We have a couple alternates who are in there too. Who got 4th is Nye, FF Tycoon, and Arkwood Shark Dad. Congratulations to those guys too. You're going to be alternates. So we'll see what happens. But the first 3 are going to be in. We also have the winner of the Mock of Champions that we had last Friday, that we put a poll up for you guys between FFSN, FZN, and FF Tycoon. And the winner of that is FF Tycoon. So congratulations, Tycoon. We're actually going to be giving you guys both an entry into our best ball league that we are setting up. And if memory serves me right, I think we are using through Underdog. So we're glad to have you guys involved with that. So congratulations to everybody involved with these particular things. I really love this community, and I really think that, you know, these guys have done a lot to try to be involved with this. Magoats, thank you for a lot of the stuff you've done during the year that we really do appreciate. Oh, I definitely got it. Oh, it's Knee, not Nye, Knee. I'm worse than Dustin here. I know Dustin butchers that name every time, so that's on me. I apologize, bro. I know you're a Packers fan, so I'm sorry. But thank you to Magoats and Luke Camp. I know you guys help out. Calbeck, thank you so much. Calbeck, thank you so much for tuning in this whole time. I really do appreciate you, checking in. I haven't gotten a chance to talk to you too much, but if you ever want to, my sleeper handle is at MHERR23 on Sleeper. So reach out to me anytime you want to chat. But otherwise, congratulations to everybody. And like I said, Anthony will hook you guys up soon. Don't forget to check out Underdog Fantasy and make sure you guys are using the promo code Get Right I have it right here for you guys. Make sure you're using that. You get an extra $25 when you guys sign up and put in your first deposit. So make sure you guys are checking that out. Shane, I really appreciate you coming in, bro. I really enjoyed talking with you, throughout this last hour and a half. You've given me a lot of insight. I'm slowly moving towards Dobbins here, but only slowly. But I really appreciate your insight today.
No, thanks for having me, man. It's fun. I enjoy the show. I enjoy doing the mocks. I appreciate you guys having me. And just excited for football to start and just get it going.
All right, and as the boss is saying for the 3 that won, make sure you guys are checking your sleeper DMs for invites. They're going to be coming soon. We got Ethan saying thanks. Me and Shane looking forward to hanging with everybody tomorrow night. Glad to have you too, bro. Anthony's telling you thanks, Shane. We really do appreciate everything that you've done, throwing us out there on Twitter. I'm very, as they like to say, classic Mike. I don't have any of those. I don't have Twitter. So getting us out there and getting us in touch with so many people.
Sure.
I'm the same way, Anthony. I'm the same way, man. But we'll see how it goes. You never know. You never know. You got to be happy at one point, and I think he can definitely help. But thank you again, Shane, and to everybody, and get right. Enjoy your night wherever you guys are and whenever you're listening to this. Make sure you guys like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time. Take care, everybody.